that you don't want in your beer, certain types of acid. That way later it will, if you leave the lid on, it'll all collect to the top and drop right back down into it. You might have to put the lid on a couple times to keep it to a boil if your cooker's like mine and doesn't keep it boiling very well. I just added 1 ounce of the UK King Goldings. We have one more round of hops we'll add it with about 2 minutes left in the boil. It's more Goldings hops. So we'll be back here in about 15 minutes to show you what we're doing next, the next step. It's been boiling another 15 minutes, so it's time. We got to do 2 things. We have to add the second round of the malt extract. Remember, we're adding it 2 separate times, which will make the beer lighter in color and bring out the flavor of the hops a little bit more, lighter color and body. But before we do that, we're going to add another ingredient. This is 100% optional. It's a thing called Irish moss, which is a clarifier. And what it does is it promotes the hop break, which I explained when the malt breaks down, makes it more fermentable. It does that, and it gets rid of some of the protein that can cloud your beer up later. It does not affect the flavor of the beer, make it better or worse. All it does is just help and make the beer more clear. And for a 5-gallon batch, you will add 1 teaspoon with about 15 minutes, left in the boil. And they also make these in tablet form if you want, that I usually use, but today I'm using, and it's just a little powder, and you sprinkle that on top. And then now I'll add the second round of the malt extract. Remember to stir it so that it does not burn on the bottom. And again, the malt adds to a sweeter flavor in the beer, adds more body, and fermentable sugars to make alcohol, which is important. What do you think, Ricky?
Looks good.
Yeah.
Can't wait to drink it.
Me either. Okay, now we'll let that go. I'll probably cover it just for a few minutes to bring it back to a boil. And then we will, in about 10 minutes, we'll have the wort chiller, the second round of hops, then we'll get it cooled off, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so now where the malt has been boiling for about 10 minutes, and it's already gotten back to a full boil. So what we have to do now is we're going to put this wort chiller, which is this, and basically what this is it's hooked up to the garden hose, and then it runs through the water, the cool water, through the coil, and then runs out through this end, and just will run out into the driveway. And how this works is after we turn the propane off, it'll cool the wort as fast as it can, which is good. You want to cool it as fast as it can, because the same way that it has a hot break where it breaks the proteins, it also has a cool break or cold break where it will, if it cools as fast as it can, it will help make the beer clearer, potentially better tasting. But it's not that important to have one of these. They're not expensive, but they're not completely necessary unless you're going to brew a lot. You can use an ice bath and put it in. Some people even put it in the fridge overnight, but that can be risky because bacteria can build if you don't add your yeast. But it's good to cool to yeast pitching temperatures as fast as you can. You want to try to get below 100 degrees. At 70 degrees would be perfect, would be even better. So first, while it's still boiling, we'll just drop it in. That way we can let it sterilize, let the boiling water do its thing. You always want to hook your hoses up before you drop it into the water, because it'll be too hot really quick. And this might stop your boil, but with the propane going, it won't hurt it. And now we'll wait a couple more minutes, 3 more minutes, and then we'll add our last round of hops. I'm going to put the lid on that, and then we'll turn the water on and get it cooled off. And it should only take maybe 15-20 minutes to get completely cooled down to 100 degrees. If you use an ice bath, it might take an hour, or if you're doing a full boil of 5 or 6 gallons, it could take as much as 2 hours. So it's always good to get it cooled down as quickly as possible. Okay, now we're going to add the last round of hops. And it's about 2 minutes left of the boil, and it's already started boiling again since we added the wort chiller. And we'll just drop it in there. And to make sure that the wort chiller isn't restricting the last little bit of hops, you just kind of pick the wort chiller up and slush it around. And it mixes the hops up inside of it. Get it going. So we got about 2 minutes, then we'll turn the wort chiller on, mix up some sanitizer, get our primary fermentation bucket all ready to go, and then we'll be ready to go. Okay, now the beer is done boiling. I got the lid on to make sure that no bugs or anything else will get into it after it's done boiling. After you're done boiling and after it's cooled off, it's very important to keep a closed lid on it. Be very careful with it because bacteria can get into it. It can ruin your batch very, very easily. Ricky's going to go turn the water hose on for me, which is going to run through here, go around the coil and out, and cool the beer off. I've got a bucket here. I'm going to collect about a gallon of water to make a batch of sanitizer with it, to sanitize my fermentation bucket, just to reuse a little bit of it. Oh, man. Ricky, turn it off. Sometimes mishaps happen. There, that's good. That's good. We'll just let the excess just run out into the driveway, and it'll take about 15 or 20 minutes to cool down a batch of beer like this. If you do a full boil, like if you're doing all grain brewing, you'll have to do a full boil. It'll take a little bit longer. It'll take maybe 25 minutes to get it cooled down to where you want it. So we'll just kind of let it go. We'll be back in a little bit. Okay, at this point, the wort chiller has been going for about 15 minutes. It's a good time to do a temperature check. You want to make sure that the thermometer is sterile, it's been sanitized. I need to mix some sanitizer up real quick, and then I'll take the temperature reading. This sanitizer is especially developed for breweries. You want to use 1 tablespoon per gallon of water. I just mixed this up right here, so when I dropped 1 tablespoon in, I'll just stir it up. And from this point on, everything that comes into contact with your beer, or wort as it is at this point, should be sanitized. So I'm going to put the thermometer needle in it. It needs to be rinsed in sanitizer before I do, because it's even a little bit of bacteria can cause it to get an infection and turn out not very good. So we'll see what we got. Okay, so right now we are 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty good. I might let it go 5 more minutes. It's below 100, so we could go ahead and put it in our fermenter, but I might wait just 5 minutes just to let it cool down a little bit more before we go ahead and do that. So what got me interested in brewing beer, I suppose I first got interested in it. I was looking up things on the internet about it, and I saw the Mr. Beer kits, things like that, and then eventually led me to the websites to sell kits like what I'm using today. I was 19 years old, couldn't purchase beer legally. I was looking for a way maybe around that a little bit, but luckily I didn't have enough money to buy those kind of kits, and it is illegal. I wouldn't suggest it. So I waited until I got a job when I was 25. My first paycheck I got from my first real full-time job that wasn't traveling internationally teaching.